Please share where you're watching from and consider subscribing to the channel. It started in 2019. I was working as a geological surveyor in Murmansk Oblast. Long hours, remote locations, and a schedule that left no room for socializing. I had just turned 27 and realized I hadn't been on a date in almost 2 years. So, on a rare night off, I downloaded a dating app, not because I expected to find love, but just to feel like I still existed in the world outside of rocks and ice. The app was called Ember, a Russian offshoot of Tinder, supposedly more secure, more selective. After a few swipes, I matched with a girl, no, a woman named Viera. Her profile was sparse. One photo of her standing on a snowy hillside, black hair tucked beneath a fur-lined hood, and a smile that felt wrong. Not fake exactly, but too symmetrical, too still. She messaged first. Privet, followed by a snowflake emoji. I responded in kind. I didn't think much of it. She asked where I lived, and I told her the truth. A temporary housing unit in Zapolyarny, near the Rybaki Peninsula. Most people would be turned off by how remote that is, but she seemed intrigued. I'm close, she replied. Kuzrika, come visit tomorrow? I hesitated. Kuzrika was nearly abandoned, a crumbling fishing village on the edge of the Barents Sea. No one I knew lived there anymore. In fact, the last time I'd passed through, I saw more stray dogs than people. I told her this. I'm restoring my grandmother's home, she said. It's quiet, peaceful. You'll like it. It was a 4-hour drive across icy roads and desolate tundra. I should have said no, but the loneliness had grown sharp, like a splinter under my skin. So I agreed. She sent me an address that didn't come up on my GPS. Instead, she dropped me a pin through a messaging app. That was the first red flag. But I ignored it. I ignored all of them. The next night, I packed my old Lada 4x4 with a thermos of coffee, a flashlight, and a knife, a habit from my field work. I left at 6 p.m., the sun already long gone, swallowed by the polar night. The darkness out there is different. It doesn't just sit around you, it breathes. It listens. The roads turned to ice-slick gravel, then to uneven tracks covered in snowdrifts. I followed the pin, watching the signal flicker in and out as I left cell towers behind. Around 10:40, I reached what I thought was the destination, a grand old wooden house, its windows glowing softly from within. I parked and called Viera. I'm here, I said. Big red house, yes? No, she replied. I don't see you. You must be at the wrong place. I'll send my location again. I stared at the house. Something about it unsettled me. The lights inside were too still, like they'd been left on for show. I got back in the car and waited for the new location. It popped up seconds later, pulling me deeper into the woods, closer to the sea. I should have turned around, but I didn't. The new route led me onto a path that barely qualified as a road, flanked by skeletal birch trees, and snow so thick the undercarriage of my vehicle scraped against it. I drove for another 15 minutes until the trees gave way to a clearing. There, beneath the dull glow of a crescent moon, stood a sagging one-story house, weather-stained, boarded in places, with a single porch light flickering above the door. I pulled up slowly. No other cars. No footprints in the snow. I called her again. I'm here, I said. I see you, she answered. I'm coming out. That's when the real fear started. The door opened, and a figure stepped into the light. She was wearing a long black cloak, the kind you'd see on a nun or a widow in an old Russian film. A black veil covered her face. Her hands, pale and thin, clutched a small, humanoid figure made of cloth and string. A doll. I waited, expecting laughter. A prank, maybe. Some friends hiding behind the trees with cameras. But no one came. Then another figure appeared, this one smaller, faster, dressed in a matching cloak. They started moving toward me. Not walking, running. In their hand, I saw something glint in the porch light. A blade. I didn't think. I jumped back into the Lada, slammed the door shut, and floored the gas. The tires skidded in the snow before catching, and I lurched forward, swerving to avoid the approaching figure. Then, a sound I will never forget. A gunshot. It cracked through the night like a whip, echoing off the trees. I didn't stop to look back. I drove. I drove like hell, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might shatter my ribs. My hands shook on the wheel. My eyes blurred with tears. I kept whispering prayers I hadn't said since childhood. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I declined. It buzzed again. And again. When I finally got back to the highway, I pulled over and vomited into the snow. Then I drove to my friend's apartment in Murmansk and didn't sleep for 48 hours. The next day, I told my friend Daniil everything. He wanted to go back to the house with a few of his buddies. "We'll bring bats," he said. "Teach them a lesson." I refused. Instead, I called the police. They took a report, half believing me. When they went to the address I gave them, they found nothing. No house. No footprints. Just an empty field and the remnants of a burned-down structure that hadn't stood for years. The officer looked at me with something between pity and skepticism. "You sure you weren't drinking?" he asked. I showed him the messages. The location pin. The number that kept calling me. He shrugged. "Could be pranks. Could be worse. But there's no one out there now." I deleted Ember that night. I deleted every app. I changed my number. For weeks, I slept with the lights on and the knife under my pillow. I never heard from Viera again. But sometimes when I'm driving alone in the north, I think I see her. Just for a second, in the rearview mirror or standing at the edge of the tree line. I met Dr. Lucien Vale on a Thursday night. I was sitting in my apartment in Old Town, wine in hand, swiping through endless profiles on Tinder. Most were forgettable. Some were cringeworthy. Then there was him, Lucien. His bio read, "Yar surgeon. Fluent in Latin and sarcasm. Let's skip small talk and talk about your dreams." I laughed at that. It felt like bait, but the good kind. The kind that smells like smoke and danger and something unspoken. We matched. He messaged first. "Tell me something you've never told anyone." I don't know why, but I answered. Within an hour, we were texting. Within 2 days, we were speaking every night on the phone. His voice was smooth, almost soporific, like a lullaby wrapped in a razor blade. He told me about patients he'd saved, late-night surgeries, the adrenaline of holding someone's life in your hands. I told him about my job at the gallery, my insomnia, the way I sometimes felt invisible. He made me feel seen, heard, desired. By Saturday, he invited me over. His penthouse was downtown, top floor of a historic building with wraparound windows and a view of the skyline that made my breath catch. The place was modern but sterile. Dark wood floors, black leather furniture, white marble countertops. No clutter, no photos. He greeted me in a black button-down and slacks, no tie, no shoes. Calm, collected, beautiful in a way that made me nervous. "Kala," he said, smiling as he kissed my hand. "You're even more luminous in person." Who says luminous? I remember thinking, but it worked. He cooked dinner, seared scallops and saffron risotto, and we drank wine that tasted like smoke and velvet. He told me about his work, his upbringing in France, his obsession with anatomy. The way he talked about the human body was almost reverent. "Do you ever get desensitized?" I asked. "From all the cutting?" He smiled. "When you understand beauty at the cellular level, it's hard to see anything as grotesque." Later, we ended up in his bedroom. I won't lie, it was intoxicating. He was attentive, skilled, and unnervingly quiet. But afterward, as I lay there, I noticed something strange. He was watching me, not in a tender way, but like he was studying me, memorizing the way my chest rose and fell. "You're so still," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Like a sculpture." I laughed nervously. I'm usually the twitchy one. He didn't laugh, just leaned in and whispered, "Sleep. You'll need your rest." I woke up the next morning in the same bed, but Lucien was gone. At first, I thought he'd just stepped out. The sunlight was streaming through the curtains. My clothes were folded neatly on a chair. My phone was charging beside the bed. Everything was normal, except for one thing. An ache in my side. Dull. Throbbing. Like I'd done too many crunches, or pulled something in my sleep. I sat up and lifted my shirt. That's when I saw the scar. 3 inches long. Precise. Fresh. Just beneath my right ribcage. My mouth went dry. I touched it. The skin was tender, the stitches tight and clean. I stumbled to the bathroom. Looked in the mirror. Pale. Sweaty. Eyes wide with panic. What the hell? I searched the apartment. Lucien was nowhere. His phone number? Disconnected. Tinder profile? Deleted. The doorman downstairs told me no one by that name lived in the building, that the unit was a corporate rental, paid for in cash. I called the police. I told them I'd been drugged. Cut open. Something had been taken. They brought me to the hospital. The ER doctor, a woman with kind eyes and tired hands, examined me and confirmed what I already knew. "You've had surgery," she said. "Very well done, actually. But there's no medical record of it." She ran tests, blood work, imaging, and that's when she told me, "One of your kidneys is missing." The days that followed were a blur of terror and disbelief. The police did what they could, but with no ID, no trace of Lucien, and no witnesses, the case stalled. I quit my job, moved in with my sister, started therapy, but I couldn't let it go. I started researching, scouring Reddit, deep web forums, medical blogs. Organ trafficking wasn't a myth. It was happening in cities, in hospitals, in hotel rooms. The stories were always the same: a charming stranger, a night of seduction, then waking up with something missing. But what haunted me most wasn't the crime. It was the intimacy. Lucien, if that was even his name, had touched me, slept beside me, kissed me, and all the while, he knew what he was going to do. He planned it, chose me. Why? Why me? 3 weeks later, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a single surgical mask, stained faintly with something reddish-brown, and a note. It read, "You were exquisite. Thank you for your gift. Most don't survive the extraction. You, Kala, are exceptional. I may visit again." I dropped the box, screamed, called the police. They took the note, the mask, promised to investigate. But I knew how this would end. It wouldn't. I don't date anymore. I don't drink wine. I don't sleep with both kidneys. I live in a basement now, with bars on the windows and locks on every door. I used to lie on dating apps. Just little things. Nothing huge. I said I was 6 feet 1 inch, when I'm really 5 feet 10 inches. Said I had a thriving freelance business, when I was really juggling 2 clients and 3 maxed out credit cards. Said I loved animals, but I was allergic to cats. But everyone does that, right? It's the language of dating apps. You smooth out the edges. You polish the dents. You become the person you think someone might want. And then you match with someone like her. Her name was Veronique. Just that, no last name, no links, no Instagram handle. Her profile was bare bones, 1 photo, 1 sentence. Camera with flash photo. Her in a velvet dress, back turned, looking over her shoulder with a smirk. Memo bio, only the honest survive. I thought it was a joke. Some art student trying to be edgy. But she was gorgeous, dark red lips, heavy lashes, skin like moonlight. Something about her felt sharp, like she knew more than you did. We matched at 2:13 a.m. I remember exactly because I was 3 bourbons in and swiping out of boredom. She messaged first. "Why did you lie in your bio?" I froze. I hadn't even said anything personal yet. Just the usual, that I was a copywriter, that I loved hiking, and that I was 6 feet 1 inch. I typed, "Excuse me?" She replied, "You're 5 feet 10 inches. You hate hiking. You're scared of dogs. You lied." Again. I stared at the screen. Something about it felt beyond invasive, like she'd been watching me. But I played it cool. Sent a laughing emoji. Said, okay. You got me. Just trying to stand out. You know how it is." She replied with a kiss emoji. "Let's meet. Tonight." She sent me an address, an upscale condo building on the east side, overlooking the river. I almost didn't go. But then again, I'd been lonely for months. I told myself it would be one night. Just a little thrill. She answered the door barefoot, wearing the same velvet dress from her photo. She smelled like sandalwood and something else, something metallic. "You're late," she said, smiling. I apologized. She didn't answer. Just took my hand and pulled me inside. The apartment was immaculate, not in a minimalist way, but in a curated museum of desire kind of way. Deep reds and blacks. Heavy curtains. A gramophone playing low ambient jazz. No photos. No mail. No clutter. And no mirrors. She poured wine, red, thick, almost syrupy. We sat on the couch, and she asked me questions. Not the cute kind. The kind that scraped. What's the worst thing you've done to someone who loved you? What lie do you tell yourself every day? What would you do if you knew no one would find out? I laughed and deflected. She didn't. She just stared at me, unblinking, like a cat waiting for a mouse to realize it's trapped. Then she kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was greedy. Hungry. Her hands moved like she was memorizing me. Not just my body, but every nerve ending. Her fingers brushed my jaw, my throat, my chest. She whispered my full name. I never told her my last name. I asked her how she knew. Her mouth brushed my ear. I always know. When we stumbled toward the bedroom, the air changed. Everything felt heavier, slower, like the moment before a car crash. The intimacy was surreal, Not just sensual, but ritualistic. Like she was performing something sacred and violent in the same breath. Her touch was electric, but her eyes never softened. They stayed cold, studying. When it was over, I blinked, and she was gone. Not in the bathroom. Not in the kitchen. Just gone. I checked my phone. No messages. The app. Deleted. Gone from my phone entirely. I laughed at myself. Maybe it was a dream. A drunken hallucination. Then I saw the scratch on my chest. Thin. Clean. Like a scalpel had kissed me. The next week, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my friend Leo, who I used to share everything with. Then Leo died. I found out through a Facebook post. Rest in peace, Leo. Gone too soon. He'd matched with someone 2 days before. I remembered because he'd shown me the profile. Guess who it was? Same photo. Same bio. Different name. I couldn't breathe. He was found in his apartment. No wounds, no signs of struggle. Just dead. The coroner said his heart stopped. No cause. I started digging. I created burner profiles. Lied on each one. Added fake heights, fake jobs, fake photos. And she came back. Every time. Different name. Same photo. Same message. You lied. I created a profile with nothing but truth. I put my real height. My real salary. My real fears. She never matched with it. She only comes for liars. I've tried to warn people. I've posted on Reddit, on forums, on ghost story threads. No one believes me. They think it's a creepypasta. A hoax. But I know the truth. Her name isn't Veronique. That's just what I called her. She's something older. A spirit. A curse. A reckoning. She punishes dishonesty, not with shame, but with death. And the worst part, I wasn't the type to chase after danger. My idea of a wild night was staying up until 2 a.m. reworking a logo for a demanding client while eating cold curry from the fridge. But I suppose it only takes one person to make you forget who you are. Or maybe it just takes the right kind of loneliness. I met Lise on an app called Velvet. It was new, invite only, and leaned heavily into kink and so-called radical honesty. The profiles weren't public. Everything was encrypted and conversation-based. No photos unless both parties agreed to exchange them. People were vetted. Or so I thought. Lisa's messages were elegant, precise. She wrote like a novelist, or maybe a therapist. Every sentence was deliberate. She asked thoughtful questions. She remembered details. She made me feel interesting in a way no one else had in years. When she finally sent a photo, it was a black and white shot of her standing in front of a mirror, lips painted black, her face half obscured by a lock of white blonde hair. She wore a high-collared blouse and a harness beneath. Something about it was both cold and inviting, like a cathedral covered in frost. We talked for 2 weeks. Then she invited me to Austria. Let's do this right, she said. A weekend of trust. No phones. No distractions. Just you and me. She called it a retreat. Said it was a place she owned in the mountains outside Salzburg. Very private, she said. You'll love the architecture. I said yes, because I was an idiot. The drive from the airport was long and winding. Dense pine forests lined the road, and the fog rolled in like something alive. I hadn't seen another car in nearly an hour when I reached the property. The gates were tall, black iron, and opened slowly after I buzzed in. The mansion beyond them was monstrous, 3 stories of stone and slate, with high windows and a roof that looked like it had been stolen from a castle. Lise met me at the door in a long crimson robe. She didn't kiss me, just smiled and said, I'm glad you came. The inside was colder than I expected. All polished wood and marble, lit by dim sconces and flickering candles. No personal touches. No photos. No clutter. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and lavender. She gave me a tour, the grand staircase, the drawing room, the playroom, with its velvet drapes and elegant restraints. Everything was tasteful. Luxurious. Understated. There was only one rule. No phones. No cameras. Agreed, I said, handing mine over. She locked it in a drawer and gave me a key to my room. That night, we drank red wine by the fire. She asked me questions, intimate, probing. Things no one else ever asked. I answered them all. I wanted her approval. Her gaze made me feel like I was the only man alive. Later, in the dark, I let her tie me up. I don't regret that part. What I regret is everything that came after. The next morning, she was gone. I woke up in a different room than the one I fell asleep in, smaller, with no windows and no furniture besides the bed. The door was locked from the outside. I knocked, then banged. No answer. After an hour, a speaker crackled to life. "Good morning, Milo," Lisa's voice said. "Today's exercise is about stillness. You'll remain in this room for 6 hours. Food will be brought afterward. Then silence." I laughed at first, thought it was part of the game. But the hours dragged, and dragged. Eventually, the lights dimmed, and a panel in the wall opened. A tray slid through with a bowl of lentil soup and a single glass of water. I ate. I waited. The next day, I woke to music. Low, ambient tones played through the speakers, accompanied by Lisa's voice. "Today's theme is obedience. You'll receive instructions. Please follow them carefully." The instructions were strange. Sit facing the wall for 30 minutes. Lie on the floor and count backward from 1,000. Speak aloud about a time you felt ashamed. I did it all, because I still thought it was a game. By the 4th day, I was moved to a different room. This one had a mirror on one wall, two-way, obviously, and a camera in the corner. "Today is about surveillance," she said. "Let's see how you behave when you think no one is watching." I screamed at the camera. No response. Later that night, a screen lowered from the ceiling. It played footage of me, eating, sleeping, dressing. Even footage of me in the airport, at the grocery store, in my apartment weeks before I met her. "Trust is built over time," her voice cooed. "We just sped it up." I don't know how long I stayed in that house. Days bled into each other. Sometimes I was rewarded, a cigarette, a warm bath. Other times I was punished, loud noise, cold water dumped on me while I slept. I wasn't alone. I heard others. Coughing. Whispering. Once a scream. I saw Lise only once more. She came into my room wearing the same crimson robe, sat beside me, and said, "You've made real progress." I asked her why. She tilted her head. "Because people lie. They lie about who they are. But when you're watched, when you're alone, you become honest. And honesty is beautiful." She touched my face. "You're beautiful, Milo. I think you're ready for the red room." Then she left. The red room wasn't red. It was white. Blindingly so. White walls. White lights. White floor. The only thing not white was the camera. I sat in that room for what felt like a week. No voice. No food. No sound. Just silence. Eventually, I started talking to myself. Then to the camera. Then to something else. I don't remember what I said. When I woke up on the floor one morning, the door was open. I ran. I don't know how I escaped. I don't remember the drive. I woke up in a hospital outside Salzburg, dehydrated and disoriented. My clothes were neatly folded in a duffel bag beside the bed. My phone was inside, reset to factory settings. The police investigated. They found the estate, but it was empty. No Lise. No cameras. Just a house stripped of everything but its bones. Velvet no longer exists. The domain is gone. No record of Lise Morgenstern, either, at least not under that name. But sometimes I still get messages. Anonymous accounts. Encrypted emails. "You looked beautiful in the red room. You're still being watched." Trust is pain. Pain is truth. I deleted all my social media. Changed my name. Moved back in with my parents in Slovenia. There's a particular kind of thrill that comes from meeting someone new online. It's not just the dopamine hit of a match or the anticipation of that first message. It's the fantasy of being known, or at least seen, by someone who might understand you better than the last. That's what I felt when I matched with Tyler. I messaged him first. "Okay, weirdest habit. I talk to my plants like they're co-workers." "You?" He replied in under a minute. "I put my socks in the freezer before I go for a run." "Try it." We talked for a week. And when I say talked, I mean he made me laugh. Deep belly laughs. He asked thoughtful questions. No pressure, no creepy comments. He was easy and warm, like a familiar sweatshirt or the first cup of coffee on a cold morning. When he asked to meet for drinks, I said yes. We met at a rooftop bar in Little Italy. He was taller than I expected. Dark hair, gray hoodie, that specific kind of effortless good looks that makes you suspicious, but not enough to walk away. "Claire," he said, smiling as he leaned in for a hug. "You're even better in 3D. We ended up talking for hours. He told me about his job in cybersecurity. Said he worked for a private firm that helped companies recover from data breaches. He didn't oversell it, didn't brag, just explained things in that calm, patient way that made you feel safe. I told him about my class, how my third graders were obsessed with slime, and how one kid kept drawing squirrels with knives. He laughed. That's low-key terrifying. I smiled. Like most people. We had 2 drinks each. No awkward silences. A kiss on the cheek when he walked me to my car. It was nice. Almost too nice. The first red flag came the next morning. He texted, "Hope you slept well. That train near your place is loud, huh?" I blinked. I'd never told him where I lived. Not even the neighborhood. I replied, "Haha, yeah. How'd you know I live near a train?" He answered, "Lucky guess." Then a winking emoji. I didn't press. Maybe I had mentioned it and forgot. But something in my stomach twisted. The next time we met, a beach picnic, he brought my favorite flavor of kombucha. I'd never told him. When I asked how he knew, he shrugged. "You seem like a ginger lemon girl." We sat on the sand, talked about childhood movies and dream vacations. He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear and said, "You really do look like someone who grew up watching Wishbone." I had, religiously. He kissed me that night. It was soft, sweet. I wanted to believe it meant something. But the coincidences kept stacking. He knew my dog's name, Daisy, before he ever met her. He asked how my landlord was handling the ceiling leak, something I'd only mentioned in a private group chat. Once, I got in my car and found a new air freshener hanging from the mirror. Lavender. My favorite. I called my best friend, Jenna. Told her everything. She was quiet for a while, then said, "Claire, are you sure he's not, following you?" I laughed. He doesn't give off that vibe. But then I started looking closer. I checked my social media. Everything was private. Or so I thought. But I'd forgotten about my old Pinterest account, the one with my classroom ideas, vision boards, a full album called Dream Apartment. Photos of my actual place. Angles from inside my bedroom. I deleted the account. But it felt too late. The next time he came over, I left my laptop open, recording. Hidden camera style. I excused myself to the bathroom mid-conversation. When I replayed the footage later, he didn't snoop or open drawers. He just sat there, perfectly still, and whispered, "I missed you even before I met you." I ghosted him after that. No warning. Just silence. He didn't message. Not once. But things started happening. Small things. I'd come home to find the thermostat changed. Daisy would bark at the closet. Once, I found my phone unlocked, a draft message open, as if someone had started replying to him. "Miss you too." I called the police. They searched the apartment. Found nothing. No signs of forced entry. They told me to get a camera. I got 5. One night, I woke up to the sound of Daisy growling. I checked the footage. At 3:07 a.m., all 5 cameras glitched. Static. When the feed resumed, a note had been slipped under my door. Just one sentence. "You don't have to tell me anything. I already know." I moved. Didn't tell anyone where. Changed my number. New job. New locks. New life. But last week, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a lavender air freshener. And a USB drive. The only file was a video. Tyler. Sitting in my new kitchen. Smiling. "Welcome home." I met Carter Lang via a Twitter thread that spiraled into my feed like a fever dream. "This man is either a genius or a ghost," someone tweeted, linking his OnlyFans. "His content isn't porn. It's performance art. And I think it's watching me back." I didn't click it for days. I was in a creative rut. Another rejection letter in my inbox. Another empty Word doc blinking back at me at 3 a.m. But the tweet kept popping up. Again and again. So I subscribed. It started simple. His first video was just him sitting on a windowsill, shirtless, smoking. No dialogue. Just soft jazz playing in the background and a cityscape behind him. The caption read, "Do you ever feel like you're being filmed?" I didn't blink for the full 4 minutes. Carter's content wasn't explicit, not at first. It was sensual, yes, but never vulgar. He'd read poetry naked in the dark. Whisper stories to the camera, like bedtime tales for insomniacs. Sometimes he'd just lie there, eyes closed, a single tear rolling down his cheek. I couldn't look away. And then one night, I watched a video that made my skin buzz. It was him, lying in bed, hand tracing over his bare chest. He whispered, "Masha." My name. I thought I misheard. But then he said it again. "Masha, you're not sleeping well." I slammed the laptop shut. The next morning, I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he had another subscriber with that name. Or maybe it was a trick, a deep fake, a script that adapts to your data. But the next video was worse. It was filmed in what looked like my neighborhood. Same cracked sidewalk. Same mural of koi fish on the corner. He walked past the exact bodega I went to every Sunday. The caption read, "I saw you buying wine." I hadn't posted that. I hadn't told anyone. I watched the footage again. Squinted. In the reflection of a store window, there I was. Walking. Alone. I unsubscribed. Reported the account. Blocked it. But the videos kept coming. Now they were emailed to me. From different addresses. No subject lines. Just links. In each one, Carter was closer. Standing across the street from my apartment. Sitting in a cafe I went to once. Reading from my screenplay. The one I'd never shown anyone. And always the same sign-off. Whispered. "That's not me. That's what the subscribers want." I called the police. Showed them the footage. They couldn't trace the emails. Said the videos could have been manipulated. That I might be dealing with a highly dedicated stalker. But it wasn't just stalking. It felt wrong. Like he was filming a version of me that hadn't happened yet. One night, I got a package. No return address. Just my name in red ink. Inside, a flash drive. I plugged it into a burner laptop. It autoplayed. Carter. Sitting in my bedroom. Same sheets. Same lamp. Same crooked poster. He was shirtless. Pale. Eyes glassy. He whispered, "You're going to touch me now." And I did. Not because I wanted to. Because something moved through me. Like someone else was behind my eyes. That night, I dreamed of him. But it wasn't a dream. I woke up sore. Marked. There were fingerprints on my thighs. Not mine. I tried to move. I packed everything. Canceled accounts. Cut my hair. Disappeared. But Carter followed. Not in person. In content. Now every time I open my laptop, a new video is waiting. Time-stamped for the next day. Or the next week. And in every one I'm there. Sleeping. Laughing. Screaming. Sometimes I'm dying. I tried destroying the flash drive. It didn't work. It melted. But the next morning, there was another one on my pillow. And a note. "They liked your reaction. Film more." I think Carter was real. Once. But now, he's something else. A signal. A parasite. A performance no one can stop watching. And I'm the next episode. I never believed in soulmates. That was something people said to excuse staying in bad relationships. We're meant to be. We're just going through a rough patch. Nobody else gets me like they do. No. I believed in compatibility, in effort, in mutual convenience. Love, to me, was a choice, not fate. So when I signed up for Soulmates Anonymous, I did it as a joke. The ad had popped up on my feed like it was listening. Tired of swiping? Let us find the one you were meant for. I clicked. Filled out the form. It was different. Not "what's your favorite movie?" or "what's your love language?" It asked things like, "How often do you feel pain when you wake up? What would you do if someone loved you too much? If your perfect match hurt you, would you forgive them?" I answered honestly. I thought it was a data mining scam. Then 3 days later, I got a package. Inside, a plane ticket to Inverness. A handwritten letter. "You've been matched. Join your soulmate for a 7-day connection retreat. All expenses covered. No phones. No exits. This is your chance to feel everything." It was absurd. But my curiosity has always been stronger than my sense of caution. So I packed a bag, left a note for my sister, and flew across the ocean to meet the person I was meant to spend forever with. The retreat was a converted manor house nestled deep in the highlands. Fog rolled over the hills like breath. The staff wore white. No one introduced themselves. There were 8 of us. 4 pairs. All strangers. All allegedly matched. We weren't allowed to speak to the other pairs. We weren't allowed to leave the grounds. We were told. Each pair had been bonded. The bond was invisible. The closer you got, the more euphoric it would feel. The further you drifted, the more pain you'd experience. I thought it was metaphorical. It wasn't. My match's name was Alaric. He was tall, quiet, and had the kind of face that looked like it had been carved from stone and warmed by fire. When we first touched, just fingers brushing, I felt heat bloom in my spine. Not attraction. Not nerves. Something else. A pull. He looked at me and said, "Do you feel that?" I nodded. We were tethered. The first night was intense. We were told to sleep in the same bed. "Proximity strengthens the bond," the staff said. I balked. Alaric offered to sleep on the floor, but the moment he moved more than a few feet away, the ache started. It was like someone digging invisible hooks into my ribs. He climbed back into bed. The pain stopped. We lay there, back to back, not touching, but I could feel the thread between us humming. Over the next few days, the bond grew stronger. When we touched, it was euphoric, like a drug. Simple things, brushing his arm, leaning against him, made my skin burn in the best way. But when we fought, when I pulled away even emotionally, it hurt. Not just emotionally, physically. My stomach twisted. My head pounded. My skin felt raw. Alaric bled once, a nosebleed that wouldn't stop, after I told him I didn't trust him. The staff said it was normal. The bond is honest, they said. It reflects your true feelings. On day 4, we were told to complete an intimacy trial. We were led down a candlelit hallway into a room with velvet cushions, warm lighting, and incense that made my thoughts blur. There were instructions on the wall. Strip away your defenses. Explore each other. The more you open, the lighter your pain. I looked at Alaric. He looked at me. Neither of us moved. Then he whispered, "I think they're watching." I nodded. We undressed slowly, not for pleasure, but for survival. When he kissed me, it was soft, careful, but I cried. Not because of the kiss, because of what it unlocked. The bond surged. My body lit up like I was full of static, and for a moment, I felt everything he felt. Loneliness, hunger, shame, desire, need, love, and something darker, possession. After that night, I couldn't be without him. I tried. I really tried. Once, I went to the garden alone just to get air. Within minutes, I collapsed, vomiting, nosebleed. Alaric came running, held me. I felt the bond rethread, and everything went calm. Too calm, like I'd never wanted to leave. I started forgetting things. What day it was, what my sister's name was. I tried to write things down, but the staff kept taking my notes. "You're here to connect," they said, "not to remember." Alaric didn't seem to mind. He whispered to me at night, "You're safe here. No one else gets us. We were made for this." I believed him, until I found the room. It was behind a locked door on the 3rd floor. I only got in because I stole a key from one of the staff. Inside, monitors, dozens of them, screens showing every room, every couple, and files, binders full of reports. Match pair 3, Naomi Chun and Alaric Marchand. Compatibility index, 34%. Bond results, exceeding expectations. Subject Naomi showing early signs of dependency, 34%. I wasn't his soulmate. I was just a test. I confronted him, told him I knew. He didn't deny it. He just looked sad. "I didn't want this either," he said, "but I don't want to lose you now." I backed away. The bond pulled tight. My bones screamed. I collapsed. So did he. We both curled on the floor, bleeding from the nose, shaking. The staff came, dragged us apart, sedated us. I woke up in a white room, alone, no windows, no Alaric, just pain, unrelenting, like a phantom limb screaming to be reattached. They let me go 2 days later, said the experiment had run its course, said I was free, but I'm not, because I still feel him. When I walk too far from any warm body, my spine aches. When I try to sleep alone, the pain starts. I wasn't looking for love. Not really. I was looking for something to fill the gaps, the long hours between the glow of a monitor and the silence of 3 a.m. I'd tried every app. I was tired of the swiping, the ghosting, the small talk that led nowhere. Then I got the invite. It came to my encrypted inbox, one I barely used. The subject line, "You've been chosen. Welcome to Solace." No sender. No explanation. Just a link. I should have deleted it. I didn't. Solace wasn't on the regular web. It required Tor to access. The sign-up page was eerily clean. Black background. One line of text. "We don't find matches. We reveal them." It asked for no photos. No bio. Just a blood type, a list of fears, and one confession. I typed. B+. Heights, being forgotten, drowning. I once watched a woman get hit by a car and didn't stop walking. A dot pulsed for a few seconds. Then a name appeared. Camille. And a message. "She's everything you've been missing." Our first interaction wasn't a message. It was a live feed. There was no chat box. No video call. Just my screen flickering to life, and there she was, sitting in a dimly lit room, sipping something from a wine glass, looking directly at her webcam. She smiled. "Jonah," she mouthed. I stared. She looked perfect. Not in a model way. In a haunting, familiar way. Like someone I'd known in a dream. I typed into the command line window Solace had opened alongside the stream. "Can you see me?" She nodded. Slowly. Then she whispered, "I can see everything." The stream ended. Over the next week, Camille appeared at random times. Always live. Always silent. Once, she was brushing her hair. Once, she was dancing in a dark room, barefoot, to a song I recognized from my childhood. Once, she stared at the screen for 10 full minutes, then whispered, "You lied in your confession." I hadn't. At least, I didn't think I had. It felt invasive, but addictive. I couldn't stop watching. Then came the invitation. "Would you like to meet Camille?" Confirm to proceed. Yes, no. I clicked yes. The screen went black. A new message appeared. "You are now part of the experience." The next day a package arrived. Plain brown box. No return address. Inside, a burner phone, a black hoodie, and a note. "Wear this. Leave your phone. Wait for instructions." I told myself it was a game. A weird, immersive experience. My curiosity outweighed my fear. That night, the burner phone buzzed. A single text. "Drive to 47.6097 degrees north, 122.3331 degrees west. Enter alone. Doors will open." It was a warehouse near the waterfront. I followed the instructions. Everything about it screamed, "Don't go in." The rusted siding, the flickering light above the entrance, the silence that felt staged. But the door creaked open. And inside, a room. Set up like a date. Single table. 2 chairs. 1 candle. And Camille. She looked exactly like she had on the stream. Pale skin. Long dark hair. Eyes like wet ash. She smiled when she saw me. "You're here." Her voice was softer than I expected. We sat. We talked. She asked things no one else ever asked. About my childhood. My nightmares. What I'd do if no one ever loved me again. I asked how any of this was possible. "Who ran Solace?" She leaned in. "They're not watching us." I blinked. "What?" She shook her head. "You're not the audience." Then, she reached across the table and touched my hand. The lights dimmed. A camera clicked on. And I heard it. Breathing. Not hers. Not mine. It was coming from behind the walls. Dozens of people. Maybe more. Watching. Breathing. Feeding off the moment. I stood up. Camille didn't. "You said you wanted to be seen," she said. "They see you now." I ran. The warehouse changed as I moved. Hallways that weren't there before. Lights that flickered on as I passed. And rooms. Dozens of rooms. Each one with a screen. Each screen showing someone else. A woman crying. A man screaming. A couple curled together, whispering apologies. And in every room, a candle. And a sign. Live. Unedited. Unforgivable. I finally found a door marked exit. It wasn't locked. Outside, the world was the same. But I wasn't. Camille never appeared again. The burner phone bricked itself. Solace disappeared from the dark web. And then the emails started. Anonymous. Encrypted. "You were our highest rated stream. They want more. Camille picked you for a reason." I've always prided myself on being a good judge of character. I work with history every day. Artifacts, dioramas, replicas of people long dead. You start to develop a kind of instinct. A radar for what's genuine and what's staged. But nothing in the museum ever prepared me for Elias Thorne. I met him on an app called Chime. It was marketed as a dating app for introverts. Slow messaging, no pressure to meet right away, emphasis on depth. Elias was perfect. Too perfect. We started talking that night. His messages were poetic, but not pretentious. He asked about my favorite exhibits, what kind of music I listened to while working alone, what I thought happened to the Roanoke settlers. He made me laugh. He made me think. He never pressured me to meet. In fact, he always said, "Let's not ruin the mystery just yet." Weeks passed. I told him things I hadn't told anyone. About my insomnia. My fear of being forgotten. The way I sometimes sat in the museum after hours and talked to the mannequins like they were old friends. He understood. "I do that too," he said. "They don't judge. They just listen." Eventually, though, I wanted more. I asked to meet. His answer was always the same. Soon. I want it to be right. That should have been my first red flag. But mystery is addictive, especially when you're lonelier than you want to admit. We finally met after 2 months of digital courtship. It was a Tuesday, pouring rain, and I was walking home from a late-night exhibit install when I spotted him. He was standing across the street, under a flickering street lamp. Gray coat, that same worn copy of The Secret History in his hand. He didn't wave, just looked at me and smiled, small knowing. I crossed the street. Elias? He nodded. Bryn. We didn't hug. We didn't kiss. But something passed between us, an electricity I can't explain. Not romantic. Not quite sexual. Something else. Like recognition. He didn't ask to go to a bar or a coffee shop. He just said, walk with me. We walked. For hours. Talking about nothing and everything. He never interrupted. He never checked his phone. He made me feel like the only person in the city who mattered. But when I asked where he lived, he hesitated. Just outside town, he said. It's complicated. I pressed. Maybe too hard. And that's when he said it. Come see for yourself. We drove for an hour. The city lights gave way to foggy fields and silent trees. Eventually, we turned down a gravel road that looked like it hadn't been used in years. His home, if you could call it that, was an old asylum. The sign was half buried in weeds. The windows boarded. The parking lot cracked and overgrown. I laughed. Very funny. But he wasn't joking. He pulled out a key, an actual iron key, and unlocked a side door. There was no electricity. Just candles. Dozens of them, lighting the hallway in a soft, golden haze. I'm restoring it, he said casually. It's peaceful here. I should have left. But I didn't. Because part of me wanted to believe that someone like Elias, someone so different, so strange, could really exist. And because I was tired of empty beds and half-drunk bottles of wine, and falling asleep with my phone in my hand. The inside of the asylum was surreal. Not dirty or ruined. Just still. The walls were painted a soft cream. The floors were swept clean. And every room we passed had mannequins inside. Dozens of them. Some sitting. Some standing. Some lying in beds. All of them dressed in period clothing. Nurses, patients, visitors. I asked him where he got them. I make them, he said. It didn't register at first. I thought he meant he dressed them, or restored them. But he meant sculpted, molded, painted. He created them from scratch. They're my company, he said. They understand me. He brought me to one room in particular, a small, sunlit chamber with a single bed and a mannequin sitting in a chair beside it, holding a book. It was an exact replica of the photo from his dating profile. You live here? I asked. He nodded. Alone? Another nod. Do you sleep here? I rest, he said. I don't sleep much. I stayed the night. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted to understand him. Maybe because I didn't want to go back to my empty apartment. He didn't touch me. Didn't try to. But when I woke up in the morning, there was a new mannequin in the corner of the room. It had my hair, my face, my clothes. I laughed. That's creepy. He didn't laugh. She's not you, he said. She's how you felt when you told me about your father. I couldn't breathe. I left. I didn't hear from him for days. Then the messages started. You didn't say goodbye. She misses you. Come back. I made tea. I ignored them. Then he sent a photo. It was my mannequin, sitting alone in a hallway, head tilted down. Caption, she's been crying. I blocked him. But blocking him didn't stop the dreams. I'd wake up in a sweat, sure someone was watching me. Once, I found a candle burning on my windowsill. Another time, a book I'd never owned, The Secret History, appeared on my kitchen table with a note inside. Let me finish the story. I called the police. They found no evidence of break-in. No fingerprints. No surveillance footage. They said it was probably a prank. I moved. Changed my number. Deleted all my dating apps. But the mannequins followed me. I saw them outside my office building, one standing across the street, dressed in a gray coat. Another in the museum lobby, facing the wall. I tried to tell myself they were just props. Coincidences. But then I got a package. No return address. Inside, a key. An iron key. And a photo of me, not one I'd ever taken, sitting in his asylum, surrounded by mannequins. They were all staring at me. I snapped. I drove back to the asylum. I don't remember the drive. I just remember the cold and the fog and the way the trees looked like they were leaning in. The side door was still unlocked. The candles were still burning. But the mannequins were different. They were posed like they were waiting. Some stood around a table, holding teacups. Some sat in pairs, heads tilted toward each other. And at the end of the hallway, in the same room as before, was my mannequin. But this time, she was lying in the bed, eyes closed, hands folded, dead. Elias was sitting beside her. He didn't look surprised to see me. "I knew you'd come back," he said. I screamed. I told him he was sick, deranged, that he needed help. He just smiled. "You don't get it," he said. "I made her because I missed you. But she doesn't talk. She doesn't breathe. She doesn't cry." He stood. "I don't want to make another one. I want you." He reached for me. I ran. He chased me through the asylum. But the halls twisted. The doors locked behind me. The rooms blurred into each other. I screamed for help. No one came. Eventually, I found the main entrance. It was boarded shut. But the boards were loose. I tore through them. Bled. Cried. Crawled into the morning light. I never saw Elias again. That was 6 months ago. I've moved 3 times. Got a restraining order, even though they couldn't find him. I changed careers. I don't work with mannequins anymore. I met Jess on Hinge. She was sharp, self-deprecating, and had a laugh that made you want to hear the setup again, just to watch it happen. Her profile said she ran community programs for at-risk youth. We matched over a shared love of horror movies and old diners. Our first date was at a 24-hour breakfast spot. She wore a faded Joy Division tee and ordered black coffee and pancakes with a side of bacon. "No syrup. I don't like things that stick," she said. "I like clean breaks." I didn't know what she meant. I should have asked. By the 3rd date, we were driving to the coast. By the 5th, I was sleeping over at her place. That's when things started to feel off. She lived in a 2-story house she said she'd inherited from her grandmother. It was charming. Ivy crawling up the siding, creaky floors, old radiators that clicked all night like bones settling in a crypt. Her bedroom was upstairs. My first night there, I woke to soft creaking, slow, deliberate footsteps above us. In the attic, I froze. Jess stirred beside me. "You hear it too?" I whispered. She was silent. Then, "It's just the house. It does that." But I'd lived in old houses. That wasn't plumbing or warped wood. That was pacing. The next morning, I asked her about it again while we drank coffee out on the porch. She didn't answer, just stared out at the trees and said, "My last relationship ended messy." I nodded, not wanting to push. "His name was Shane," she said. "He didn't take it well. But it's over now." The way she said it, too flat, too practiced, didn't sit right. Things kept happening. Once, I found 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom. She said one was old. I threw it out. It came back the next day. Another time, I went to grab a hoodie from her closet and found a men's leather jacket. Large. Not dusty. "Old gift," she said. "I keep weird stuff." In the fridge, I found a 6-pack of beer. Brand I didn't recognize. When I asked, she said, "I don't drink beer." So I threw one out. That night, it was back. Same brand. Same spot. I asked her again. She said maybe I was remembering wrong. I started locking the bedroom door when she wasn't looking. Not because I didn't trust her. Because I didn't trust the house. I'd hear footsteps behind walls. Breathing in the vents. Doors that shifted open an inch, then closed like someone was testing them. One night, I woke up gasping. The closet door was wide open. Jess was asleep. But I swear, I saw a figure standing just behind the coats. I turned on the light. Nothing. But the room smelled like sweat and mildew. I tried to talk to her about it. Told her I thought someone else might be in the house. Watching us. Living in the walls. She laughed. Then she kissed me. Hard. "You're paranoid," she whispered, straddling my lap. "Do you want to ruin something good because your brain can't shut up?" I let it go. Because I wanted to believe her more than I wanted to be right. Then came the morning I found the message. Written in the dust behind the headboard. Like someone had reached over while we slept. "Still here." I showed it to her. She stared at it for a long time. Then she said, "Maybe you did that without realizing." I said no. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You want to leave, don't you?" I didn't answer. But that night, I packed a bag. At 2:13 a.m., I crept downstairs. The floor groaned. From the kitchen, I heard breathing. Then a whisper. "Don't go." I turned the corner. No one was there. Just the fridge door swinging open. The beer gone. I ran back upstairs. Jess was awake. sitting up. You heard him, she said quietly. My throat closed. Jess, who is in this house? She looked at me. Tears welled in her eyes. But she didn't cry. He was never good at letting go. I left at dawn. No goodbye. Just got in my car and drove. I didn't look back. But I still think about her. I still wonder if she ever got out. If she even wanted to. So, it all started when I agreed to meet this guy for dinner and drinks. Bumble match, a few chats between us, and then the inevitable, let's meet and see where this goes. He suggested this restaurant/bar kind of place, which had sounded alright to be honest. My sort of place. I'm not picky about venues as long as the vibe's decent and the company isn't trash. Oh boy was I wrong. The moment I arrived, there he was, already seated, looking way too pleased with himself. He was the kind of guy who screams try hard without even opening his mouth, but of course, he did open his mouth, and then it all went downhill. The whole conversation was like a TED Talk nobody asked for. He was flexing about his life, his job, his car, his gym routine, and it was all so unnecessarily extra. He told me he bench pressed some ungodly weight, like 120 kilograms or something, and then segued into how his boss loves him because he dominates every project. I mean, okay, congrats, but what am I supposed to do with this information? Frame it? I tried to steer the conversation into something a little less self-obsessed, like, oh, so what do you do for fun? Big mistake. He went off about how he's a high-energy person who's always on the move, rattling off a list of hobbies that sounded more like a LinkedIn profile than an actual human being's interests. I do CrossFit, I hike, I play rugby with the boys, and sometimes I just need to unwind with a good cigar, you know? No, I don't know, but thanks for sharing. By the time the food arrived, I was already mentally planning my escape route. I had ordered 1 main and a pint of beer to keep things simple, but this guy, oh no, he was living his best life. He ordered 6 pints of Guinness, back to back, like it was some kind of personal challenge, and a steak that cost more than my monthly phone bill. Honestly, I wasn't judging the amount he ordered, but the way he downed those pints like a frat boy at happy hour? Questionable behavior for a grown man. Anyway, the bill came, and this is where things hit peak cringe. The total was around $250, and I swear to you, 75% of that was just his beer. I was fully prepared to pay my share, because I always do, but before I could even say anything, he took one look at the bill, smirked, and said, with the waitress standing right there, "Wow, restaurants love me, man, because I spend so much money." I nearly choked on my own breath. Who does that? The poor waitress just stood there, awkwardly holding the bill folder like, "Okay, dude, can you just pay and let me do my job?" I was so mortified for her that I blurted out, "Can you STFU, she's right beside you," and gave her my best "I'm so sorry you have to deal with this" look. She smiled politely, but I could tell she was dying inside, just like me. He finally paid the bill, thank God, but karma had other plans for him. As we were leaving, this man walked straight into a glass door. Deadass, full-on collision. I don't even know how it happened because the door wasn't even subtle. It had a giant handle and everything. The loud thunk was all I needed to confirm that the universe has a sense of humor. He tried to play it off like it didn't hurt, but I could see the red mark forming on his forehead. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. We headed outside to book a grab, and honestly, I was counting the seconds until I could go home. While we were waiting, he whipped out a cigarette and lit it up, blowing smoke directly into the air like he was in some noir movie. Then he turned to me and asked, "Do you smoke?" I told him no, that I'd quit cigarettes, thinking that would be the end of it. But no, of course not. This guy actually tried to force his cigarette into my mouth, like some kind of nicotine evangelist. "Aya, just smoke la," he said, waving it in my face. "You also gonna smoke again eventually." At this point, I was just staring at him, wondering if he was real or some kind of elaborate prank. Like, "Sir, what part of I've quit sounds like please peer pressure me into ruining my lungs again?" I leaned back and said, "Yeah, that's not happening, thanks." And he gave me this weird look like I just turned down a winning lottery ticket. Unreal. Then came the cherry on top of this already disastrous evening. He asked if I knew where he lived, and I said, "Oh, East Side," because I vaguely remembered his Bumble profile mentioning something about the East. And then he goes, "Oh, I stay Ju Chiat area. You know where that is?" All the landed houses. The way he said it, like he was name-dropping a luxury brand, made me want to throw my phone into traffic. Congratulations on living near expensive real estate, I guess? What do you want, a medal? And then, as if the night couldn't get any worse, he started trying to convince me to go home with him. I had already made it crystal clear that I wasn't looking for casual sex, but this guy just didn't get the memo. He kept saying stuff like, "Come on, I'll take care of you, and you'll have fun, I promise." When I shut him down for the 5th time, he leaned back, sighed dramatically, and said, "Fine, but when I get home, I'm gonna jerk off so hard while thinking of you." I kid you not. Those were his exact words. I think my soul left my body for a second. I just stared at him, completely speechless. Like, what do you even say to that? Thanks for sharing? Good luck with that? I was so done at this point that I just stood up and said, "My grab's here, bye." It wasn't even here yet, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from him immediately.